The temperature was minus 30 degrees. The wind was cutting. The snow was deep, and the fire had gone out. Not just low, the coals were dead. The ash was cold, and the darkness around the camp was complete. This wasn't a story. This was Tuesday. For ancient humans living before fire was reliably controlled. This was just another winter night, and somehow they survived it. Here's what most people don't know. Humans controlled fire for roughly 1 million years. But before that, there were humans, walking the earth in Ice Age winters, without reliable fire, without matches, without flint and steel, without any guaranteed way to make warmth on demand. The question isn't whether they survived. We know they did. We're here. The question is how. First, understand what ancient winters actually were. Not cold like today's winters. Colder. During certain periods of prehistory, massive ice sheets covered enormous portions of the earth. Average temperatures were significantly lower than anything alive today in most places. Winters lasted longer, were darker, more violent, more relentless. And ancient humans faced them with bodies that had no fur, no natural insulation, no built-in protection against extreme cold, just skin. So what did they do? The first answer is the most obvious. They found shelter. But not shelter the way we think of it. Not a warm house with walls and a roof and a door. Real shelter. Natural shelter. The kind the earth itself provided. Caves were the most valuable real estate on the planet. Not because they were comfortable. They weren't. A deep cave stays at roughly 10 to 13 degrees Celsius year-round. That doesn't sound warm. But in a world where outside temperatures dropped to minus 30, 13 degrees was the difference between alive and dead. Ancient humans didn't stumble into caves accidentally. They competed for them, fiercely. The evidence shows ancient humans occupying the same cave sites repeatedly, over thousands of years, generation after generation returning to the same locations, because these places were known, remembered, passed down. The knowledge of where a safe cave was one of the most valuable pieces of information a group could possess. They survived it. But caves weren't available everywhere, and groups needed to move. To follow food, to follow water. What did they do when there was no cave? They built, not houses, not structures with foundations and framing. Something older, something simpler, and something far more ingenious than most people realize. In some regions, ancient humans dug into the earth itself. Pit shelters. A deep pit dug into the ground, insulated by the earth around it, covered with whatever materials were available. Branches, animal hides, packed snow itself. Snow is an extraordinary insulator. Ancient humans who lived in extreme cold understood this completely. A shelter covered in packed snow traps body heat inside far more effectively than bare wood or hide. The same physics that makes an igloo work applied 50,000 years before anyone built an igloo. But the shelter was only part of it, because a shelter without warmth was still a place where you could freeze. So how did they generate warmth? Without reliable fire. The answer is the same answer it has always been for every animal on Earth. Bodies. Ancient humans slept together, not side by side with polite distance, pressed against each other, piled together, every body in the group generating heat, every body sharing that heat with every other body. A group of 10 people sleeping pressed together generates significant warmth, enough, in a well-insulated shelter to prevent death from cold. This wasn't intimacy. This was survival physics. The group that slept apart froze. The group that slept together lived. The second source of warmth was something no ancient human would have overlooked. Animals. Large animals generate enormous amounts of body heat. Dogs, or rather their wolf ancestors, which ancient humans began domesticating extremely early, slept with human groups, not as pets, as heat sources. The phrase three-dog night, meaning a night so cold you needed 3 dogs sleeping against you to survive, isn't a modern invention. It describes something ancient humans understood completely. A large dog pressed against your body on a freezing night could mean the difference between waking up and not. Clothing was the third critical factor, and ancient humans were far more sophisticated about clothing than most people imagine. Archaeologists have found evidence of sewing needles made from bone, dating back at least 40,000 years. Needles so fine, so precisely made, that they could create tight seams in animal hide. Seams that kept wind out, that trapped body heat inside. Ancient humans understood layering, an inner layer to manage moisture, a middle layer for warmth, an outer layer to block wind and wet. This isn't modern knowledge, it's ancient knowledge, developed through generations of trial and error, where the trial was your life and the error was death. Food was the fourth factor, and perhaps the most underestimated. Your body generates heat from food, specifically from fat. Fat has more than twice the caloric density of protein or carbohydrate. In extreme cold, an ancient human's body could burn enormous quantities of energy simply maintaining core temperature, which meant eating enough fat was not a dietary preference. It was survival arithmetic. Ancient humans in cold climates prioritized fatty foods with a focus that looks almost obsessive to modern eyes. Bone marrow, animal fat, the fatty organs of large prey. These weren't delicacies, they were fuel, the fuel that kept the body's internal furnace running through the coldest nights, when nothing outside was burning. There was also movement. Ancient humans understood something that modern science confirms. Physical activity generates body heat rapidly. A human moving continuously generates significantly more warmth than a human sitting still. On the coldest days, ancient humans didn't simply huddle and wait, they moved. Constant, deliberate, purposeful movement, even in conditions that made movement painful, even when every instinct said to stay still and conserve energy, because the instinct to conserve energy in extreme cold is, paradoxically, one of the most dangerous instincts you can follow. Stillness, without enough calories to maintain temperature, meant your core temperature dropped, and once core temperature started dropping, everything else followed. Knowledge was perhaps the most important survival tool of all. Ancient humans who survived harsh winters didn't survive by accident. They survived because they knew things. Specific, precise, tested things. Which animal paths led to winter food sources? Which plants remained edible under snow? Which types of snow were good for insulation and which weren't? Where specific caves were located across their entire territory. How to read weather patterns to predict the worst nights. How to recognize the signs of frostbite before it became fatal. This knowledge wasn't written. It lived in people, passed from elder to child, around fires when they had them, and whispered in darkness when they didn't. The elder who had survived 40 winters and remembered what worked was more valuable than any tool, any weapon, any physical strength, and sometimes, all of it wasn't enough. The archaeological record shows that winters killed ancient humans. Regularly, children were most vulnerable. The elderly, the injured, the weak. This wasn't romantic survival. It was brutal, grinding, relentless survival, where every winter was a test, and not everyone passed. But the ones who did, they passed because of something that no other animal on Earth had developed to the same degree: the ability to share knowledge across generations, to learn from the dead, to apply lessons from 50 years ago to problems happening right now. A wolf survives winter through instinct, through fur, through biology. An ancient human survived winter through memory, through knowledge, through the accumulated wisdom of every ancestor who had shivered through a cold night and figured out something that helped. The next time winter comes and you feel the cold through a window, or step outside and feel your face tighten in the frost, remember what that cold meant 50,000 years ago. No fire, no heat, no guarantee of tomorrow, just bodies pressed together in the dark. And knowledge passed from the ones who survived to the ones who were still learning.